Hi everyone and welcome to Module 4, the Usability Report. I wanted to draw your attention to the course calendar to show you that you have an extra week to complete this first draft. So instead of the normal 1 week turnaround, you actually have 2 weeks before the first draft is due. And that's because this is a little more involved and it requires a little more activity on your part. So I'm just sort of cautioning you to not wait to the very last minute to do this because it does take some substantial time for you to work this out. And you'll see why here in a second. But that's the course calendar. So this module is actually 3 weeks long instead of 2. So just so you know, the first draft is not due until October 20th. What's a usability report? In your textbook, you can read up on this in chapter 13. Though quickly, usability report is just a sort of final product after you've completed the usability testing. And you could think of this as most products that we use go through some sort of usability testing phase where a small group of people will pilot something like a product, let's say a car or an iPhone, or anything really technology related. And this small group of people will pilot this to make sure that things work properly, what works well, what doesn't work, and then those changes can be made to the product. So that's essentially what you're doing with your usability testing, because so far you have a job aid, which is what we just completed, and you have a set of instructions. And both the job aid and the set of instructions should be tailored to the application that you're using. So let's say, for example, Evernote. So you have the application Evernote, you've got a set of instructions explaining Evernote, and you have a job aid explaining how to use Evernote. And so essentially, just a sort of overview of how this works, you find two people to actually use these instructions in job aid and see if they work. So you're testing the quality or the effectiveness of those instructions that you wrote and the job aid that you created. So this works best if the people that you find to do this testing are unfamiliar with the tool. And the reason that is because if you have instructions in a job aid on Twitter, okay, and then you choose someone who knows all about Twitter, then when they go to use Twitter, they're not really going to be looking at your instructions or your job aid. They're just going to be doing it from memory. Whereas if you use something like Evernote, or I guess even Twitter, and you find someone who's never used that application, then they have to rely on your instructions and job aids. So that's the first thing that we have to do here is step one, find two people, and this will take maybe 15 or 20 minutes of their time, two people to do this, to go through your instructions and your job aid and literally walk through them and set up whatever, an account with Evernote, or whatever your application may be. So that's the first thing you have to do. You have to find these two people, and you need to do this in person. So they don't necessarily have to be someone from this class. They can if you want, but they can be another CCU student, a family member, a boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever. It doesn't really matter, but it should be face to face. So make sure you're doing this with the person. Don't just like email them your instructions and have them do it that way. This works best if you do it face to face. So after these people use your instructions and job aid and go through your testing, then you're going to interview them. And this interview really stems from an interview questionnaire. This is where you're polling your questions. So before you get to this step, before you actually get to the interview part, you should have a list of questions that you've already developed that you're going to ask the users. So you want to ask things like, what parts of the instructions worked best for you? What parts were unclear? And if they say, I'm not sure or something like that, then you would want to ask them to explain further or ask them specific follow-up questions like, can you think of a particular example, right? So if they say like, oh, I don't know, the job aid was pretty helpful, that's okay, but you might want to follow that up with, Oh, good, it was helpful. Can you think of a particular step that was helpful? Right? So you want to try and probe them a little further because what I've found is a lot of times people will just give you answers like yes or no or sure or it was good, and that doesn't necessarily help you. It's a lot like the peer review. So first, you need to develop this questionnaire. I'm going to show you this in a second. Then after that, you actually meet with the people who are doing your testing and you give them the instructions in your job aid. So you can either print those out or you can just have them pulled up on a computer and say, okay, here are your instructions, here is the job aid. Now go to the website or application or tool or whatever it is that you're using, and then use both of these documents one at a time on the application. So use this set of instructions and go create an Evernote account or whatever application you're using. And then immediately afterwards, after they do this, you'll want to interview them and say what was good, what was bad, what worked, what didn't work, be specific, that sort of thing. So you'll actually conduct the interview. Oh, a side note on this: the interview is transcribed, which means you literally write down what was said or type out what was said in the interview. So you'll need to record this interview. And you can do that a number of different ways. You can use your phone. I find most people find that's the easiest way to do it. It's just record it using your phone. Or you can use the computer. If it has a microphone, you can record it. But it has to be something that you can then go back to later and listen to word for word so you can transcribe it. That means writing it down word for word. And then after you've done that, okay, so you've done the testing with the user, you've interviewed that user, you recorded the interview, you transcribed the interview. Now you need to sort of analyze that interview. So go back and look for major themes in the responses. Some examples of themes that people come up with are obstacles, so obstacles that the user encountered, or improvements needed. Maybe they saw several improvements that were needed in your instructions, or maybe it was just confusing. So that's a theme. What parts were confusing? And then lastly, once you have analyzed the interview, you'll want to actually write the draft. Um, so this is Moodle now. Um, Now, I've sort of broken it down a little bit further for you down here. So you do find someone to participate. Now what do you do? Well, first you need to develop an interview protocol or questionnaire, whichever. This is in the textbook. You can look for more information there. But I give you some example questions. These are all types of questions that you can ask or at least write down in your protocol or questionnaire to be ready to ask the person. And I'll tell you from experience, the more questions that you have prepared, the better. The better off you are. And actually, the lengthier the interview is, the better off you are. Because if you just ask 4 questions and the interview is about 2.5 minutes long, and the person's just saying, yep, it was good, yep, it worked, oh, fine, it was good, then it's not going to be very easy for you to analyze that. You need to be able to pick it apart more. So I'll tell you one thing that, if I can give you one tip, it's make the interview as long as you possibly can. And I know that that means more typing for you when you transcribe it, but it's so worth it in the long run for you to do that. So you're done with the interview. Now what do you do? Well, you just kind of analyze the information. You can go through it and read through and look for major themes and try and develop what those are. You can use a Wordle. This is a really interesting way to see what the major themes are in your paper. And actually, if you wanted to include this Wordle in your paper, you could do so. A Wordle, and I'll just show you an example here. Um, a Wordle is this. It's a word cloud, and you might have seen these before. But essentially, I'll just do it. I'll do a new one. This is the home page. It's wordle.net, and you can create your own Wordle. And I'm just gonna paste in here. What I did was I went to I went to our Google Plus site and I just copied everything. I highlighted all the text and just copied it, and then pasted it into this box right here. Click go. And this is a Wordle. And so the way that a Wordle works, or a word cloud, is that the words that are most commonly used are larger than other words. So because I highlighted all that text on the page, you'll see, like in Google, every one of these posts has the words English 211, professional technical writing. So that's not really a post, that's just part of the post itself. So what you can do is you can actually, the words, the title of the course, because that's not really what people are posting, that just happens to be something common on every single post. So same thing with like add, photo. So you can manipulate this as much as you want. I'm going to take out the months, October, September, and you can see as I get down closer and closer, and I'm going to change the layout here to horizontal. There we go. It's easier to read this way. So the words that are larger are the more common words. So like right away, I can tell you, I can see Jillian's name right here. So she must be posting more often than other people, right? Brittany's also a large name. My name is in there. Job aid is a very common word phrase that's being used in the Google Plus site. So you can see that you can tell what kinds of things are coming out of all of those posts. Everyone is a good one. Weekend is a big one. Comments is a big one. So you might be able to infer that lots of people are saying things about work, or comments, or something about submitted is a common one. So yeah, I mean that's an easy way to analyze the interview. So the way that you would use this with your interview is that after you've transcribed it, after you've typed out all of the words, then you can actually just copy those words and paste it in the box, and you'll see the words that come up the most frequently. Okay, so that's just kind of a tangent, but it's a useful tool. And then once you've done that, once you've figured out what your themes are and things, then the last step is to actually write the report. And this isn't that difficult really, because all you're doing, and I'm giving you the exact organization of what the report should be, all you're doing is you're reporting this information that you found. So the student example will give you a better sense of this, but let's take a look actually at the student example. So here's the student example. You need a title page because we're using APA format for this. One comment I'll make about the title page in APA format is one that I was making quite frequently on the set of instructions, and that is that don't forget that on this first page you need to have the lead-in running head, colon, and head is not capitalized, and then the title itself is all caps, page number. But then on subsequent pages you don't have that running head part, it's just the title. So I'll be sending out some instructions on how to do this. It depends on what program you're using, whether you're using Word or whatever, Pages or Notepad or whatever. So I'll send out some more instructions, but just be aware of that. So you can see he's going through the process of analysis. So he just describes the actual people he interviewed, what kind of people they are, what their age and familiarity is, where they're from, stuff like that. Then he talks about the setting. So where were you when you did the interviews? In your dorm room, in the library, at the park, whatever. You can talk about it a little more. And then you get into your themes, right? And this is also referred to as the coding. So the themes that he came up with were effectiveness of the instructions, obscurities, advantages of the program itself, Wunderlist, and enhancements. So those are his 4 themes. I can tell you that you may not have the same exact theme, so don't just default to the themes that he used in this student model. You may have different themes. So just look at your interview and figure out what's coming up the most frequently. And then he just kind of goes into a little more depth depth in terms of each theme. So what do you mean each theme? What do you mean effectiveness? And notice that he's quoting his interviewee on things like effectiveness. So his interviewee, the person he interviewed, Courtney, said, "It was good, especially how you had everything indented and each topic had its own subtext and titles," or whatever they are called, right? So that's an example of her talking about the effectiveness of it. He goes into his other themes here: obscurities, advantages. Notice that he's got at least one quote from his interviewee in each of these sections. I'm really looking for that as well. You need to be able to quote directly what they're saying and back up what you're saying about the themes. And then finally, there's the appendix. And the appendix is the actual transcribed interview. It's called the interview transcript. And notice how he's doing this. He's saying, this is literally what he said. "Okay, Courtney, I'm going to ask you a few questions, blah, blah, blah. So, are you ready to get started?" She responds, "Yes." He responds, "Okay, have you ever used the application?" So, if she or he is using a lot of uhs or ums, you don't have to do every single one, but include that, right? So, when she's saying things like, "I like the job aid a little bit better," ... include that. I know I say a lot of ums when I'm talking in these videos. She does as well. Just the terminology. So now you can sort of see why it is very important that you record that interview, because obviously there's no way you could ever remember this word for word as it happened. You need to have a recording of it. And that's it. So his transcription is a bit longer. Don't be freaked out at the 12 pages of this thing. It's not as difficult as you may think. This transcription alone is like 5 pages. And you do need to have a table. So you need to have a table with the specific quotes in there that support your theme. And you've got a title page. So, I mean, you know, it's not truly that long of a document. You're just writing about who the interviewees were, where you did it, and the sort of themes that you came up with. That's a lot of information. That's a long video, and I apologize for that. But that's also why you have an extra week to do this. So my recommendation is find the 2 people early on, come up with the interview questionnaire, come up with a big list of questions. You can even share these questions. I don't care if you all, pool together some of your questions and collaborate on these questions and then use them on your own interviewees. That's perfectly fine. So develop the questionnaire and then actually have these people do the testing and then interview them, record the interview, and you've got, 2 weeks to come up with that final draft. So I find that once you get started, it's very manageable. But right now, it seems like a lot of stuff to do. That's it for me. Again, sorry that it's such a long video this week, but it's a big module. Lastly, Google Plus, great stuff. Keep it up. Good interaction going on there. I like watching your comments and the contributions that you all are making to each other and everything else. So that's great. Keep that up as well. That's all I have for you. As always, let me know if you have questions. Shoot me an email. And if you need to do a Google Hangout together, we can also do that on your schedule. So that's it. Let me know if you have questions. Thank you.